Hi everyone, it's Michelle Lightworker here, and welcome to Enlightened Conversations, where we get to unwrap the adventure sometimes of who our guests are, because Spirit picks them up and drops them in our path in such amazing, fascinating ways that we can't not actually sit down and have a good old chat with them, because we just know it's fortuitous and it's meant to be. So I'd like to formally introduce some beautiful people that I feel are shining their light in some really interesting places. Chris and Lindsay Jones are the founders of Lightworker, The Art of Being Human, and their blog, Hug Your Chaos. How cool a name is that blog? I love that. Can I steal it? It's great. Both which were created to serve as inspiration and guidance who seek deeper meaning in life. They found each other against all odds across oceans, as Chris is Australian and Linda is American. And in order to come together, they feel to fulfill their life purpose as that twin flame level, helping to raise the consciousness and vibration of the planet, which we love. And after their little bit of their story is after they both walked separate yet simultaneous paths through the darkness of depression, anxiety, and addiction, they almost simultaneously turned the path of light and spirituality at the same time. So it was amazing. Through yoga, meditation, Buddhism, Hinduism, and also service to others, which I can relate to big time. And in divine time, as all things are, they found each other at a time when neither was looking, but both asking for guidance on their next step forward. And thus the partnership of Lightworker was born, and it is their sole purpose to help others on their own path of healing and integration, the place where we are each one within ourselves as our darkness and light, to reconnect with our yin and our yang so that we can all then truly be joined as one with each other. Wow, what a beautiful life mission you guys have. Welcome to the show. Lovely to have you here.
Great to be here. It's awesome.
Definitely. Thank you.
And as I said, it's kind of a little bit of an adventure and exciting when you've got people on the show that Spirit's dropped in your path and you just know, we got to talk, babes.
That's exactly how it happened too. It's so funny.
Let's do this.
I guess though.
Hey, what's that?
So,
what was that, sorry?
Oh, I thought I missed what you said to Chris.
Oh, I said that's our favorite type of adventure.
Perfect. I'm curious. This is me at the beginning of my shows. Sometimes like really curious about and fascinated about something, and I am really curious about something. Do you know of Debbie Ford?
No.
Okay, so Debbie Ford wrote a book that I love. Read it back in 2000, early 2000s, called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers.
Sounds interesting.
I think that'll be on our reading list very soon.
Yeah. And the reason why I mention this, right, is because that book really spoke to my soul, because there was a lot of people in the lightworking industry that weren't really connecting with embracing their shadow and transforming their darker parts, and to get the gifts out, to unwrap the gifts out of them. Right. And so I really loved her work, because it was all about, yes, we all want to be expansive, right? But we can't really get there really fully to really be that big bright light if we're rejecting, not hugging our chaos. Let's just say that. Right?
Exactly, right? That's so spot on. I know. That's why when we started throwing around the names and the theme for this blog, it came to us as Hug Your Chaos. And that's exactly what the last year and a half of our personal journeys has been.
Yeah.
Is exactly that. Because I was I fell into that sort of misinformation within myself, where I thought for a short period of time that I was walking this spiritual path, that I thought all of the darkness was just supposed to be gone, that I was just supposed to be, you know, love and light all the time, and just, you know, zen and like this every moment of the day, and I was never going to be angry. You know, and it was a really huge step for me when I came to realize, oh my God, this anger or these other emotions that plague me and that are sort of my dark parts, it's all about the integration and embracing it. And it's like amazing what has happened since then.
It certainly is.
It's like, it's crazy.
And I mean, for me, realistically, I hadn't even heard the term shadow work when I was working through my depression.
Right.
I often saw depression as a battlefield. And, you know, I was looking at severe clinical depression. I was in this battlefield where I wouldn't even get out of bed for 2 weeks at a time. And I couldn't function in life. And so I went into, you know, the same route that many people take, and took medication. And I was medicated for that for 6 years. And during that time, I didn't feel a single thing. And I figured there has to be something between laying in bed feeling, you know, completely black and not feeling anything. There has to be a middle ground there somewhere. And what I realized is that it is literally just working through that shadow. It's embracing those parts of yourself that you don't want to look at. That's how you get through it.
Stop trying to run away from it.
Yeah, there is darkness inside yourself, and you have to look at that darkness. And in doing so, you overcome it because you recognize it's part of yourself. You hug it, you accept it. It's perfect. Oh, we've lost our audio.
There we go.
I got you. So it's really nice, that analogy, isn't it, of hugging your chaos, because it's like it's an invitation for that part immediately to feel accepted and loved, and it's giving. It's like saying it's okay. You feel chaotic. It's okay. I'm here and I'm holding you. I'm your little container that can make you feel nice and loved and accepted and embraced, and just out of that alone, just out of that love and acceptance of the parts of ourselves that are struggling, so much magic can happen, so much transformation can happen, and in my experience, so many creative solutions come from that being, from that part of ourselves. That's unlocking infinite creative potential, because it's just usually a part of us that's so shut down and the energy's stuck somewhere that it just doesn't know what it's here for. It just doesn't get it. But when we love it, it's like it kind of expands it to a point where it gets an awareness on board of how valuable it is to serving us. And then it's an incredible, I think, an adventure, because every problem that we come across turns into an exciting, blessing in the lesson.
It's so true. You gave me goosebumps while you were saying that. It's so spot on. Yeah. Because like I found that I spent so much time trying to deny the existence of my chaos. I was very much the one, I like high functioning anxiety inside, but growing up, I had such a facade up that I would not allow anybody to see that. So I suffered through it silently. When I talk about like people who knew me growing up now, and I tell them that, they're like, you? No way, because I had everybody fooled. And that's one of the main things that fueled sort of my darkness and my addiction, because I was just trying to constantly repress it, you know, and that almost killed me. So it's crazy how we do that. And, you know, my whole thing too is our society right now, we sort of we're programmed to like, nope, we don't want to hear about the bad. Let's just talk about the good. And, you know, social media is just a highlight reel. And we forget that like our biggest point of connection, I think, is through our struggles.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And it helps us feel equal, doesn't it? Like we come out of it. You know what? It's okay. I'm a human being. I'm actually part of the human race.
I don't have to be perfect.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I liked your post yesterday that you did on Facebook, Chris. I noticed you shared your vulnerability and about how tough it was for you yesterday, and coming off, you know, when you're in that detox and you're feeling crap, and it's like it is a reality. It's just like it's you know, walking through the process. It can sometimes feel crap, but we have this undercurrent of love going on for us, right? And in that love and acceptance, guess what? We can be transparent beings, and then we can be those pillars of light for really, really what you did yesterday, which was, posting it real time, how you're really feeling. I think that's commendable, and I really applaud you for that.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, I mean, we were joking about that the past couple of days. It would just be so easy to turn your back on this path. It would be so easy to eat cheeseburgers and not embrace a low harm path, not be, we're vegan ourselves, but we don't preach that. It's just part of our choices in life, but it doesn't make it an easy path, especially when you're on the road, when we're traveling, when we're, looking at trying to meal prep. How do you meal prep when you can't incorporate so many things into your diet? Just little things like that. And we've joked about that yesterday. Wouldn't it just be so much easier to not care? But then it's just not in us to do that.
Right, because we wouldn't be happy if we did that. Sorry, we got a dog bomber again.
That's all right. Dog bombs are welcome on Enlightened Conversations. I think that should be a thing.
They're more enlightened than us, right?
Yeah, I love it. With dog moments are going to be awesome on Enlightened Conversations, because I think that they bring a lot of light. They bring a lot of levity. They bring a lot of love. Look at that. Look at that. Just cause,
We've always said that
we have a lot to learn from them.
Dogs are, when people have completely mastered their reality and they've come back for their last incarnation, they come back as a dog to teach us about unconditional love.
And they don't hold grudges, and they just, every day is a new day, and they're grateful for everything. It's like
so perfect, isn't it? I mean, I must admit, I'm quite excited by the fact that I was actually born in the year of the dog. Because when I'm excited and very when I allow myself to be bubbly, when I was growing up, it was kind of like okay sometimes, but then in other times it wasn't, and I think there was like a natural effervescence that just wanted to bubble up from me. I don't know, it was just like that's what I was channeling or something, and now I don't put a cap on it, and now I'm in a relationship with a dolphin. My husband, he's a dolphin, so I couldn't ask for anything better. So we're playful, and we're like, I think they call them the dogs of the ocean.
Yeah,
totally.
And so this energy of play, joy, happiness, and we have serious conversations all the time, but we're still able to look at the lighter side of it all. Right. And I think that helps us to not get too heavy around it, and to see it in its place, to see it as serving us. Yeah,
I relate with that so much, because that's me too. It's like there's always like an undercurrent of seriousness to everything that I'm doing, but I can just laugh and play all the time, and that's been a big lesson in our personal relationship too.
It definitely has. It's something that I'm coming to an understanding of within my own path as well.
I've taught him to play. He's learning.
I've walked a very dark path, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but, military service in active areas, and there's been a lot of darkness in my background, and I forgot how to have fun. I forgot how to play in life. And it's thanks to Lindsay that I've started to learn how to play again, and I can laugh at myself when someone makes fun of me. I laugh now. I don't get all butthurt.
Because we don't have to take ourselves so seriously.
Not at all.
That's part of our message too, is like, just because that was a big issue for me, just taking myself so seriously and being such a slave to, that ego. Yeah. And like you were saying, when I was growing up too, I tried to mask a lot of my sort of bubbly personality, because I felt like everyone was always like, oh God, she's just too much. So I'd shove it down. And then it's like, now that I've embraced myself, it's just, who cares? You're going to like me or you're not. I'm not worried about it anymore.
Yeah. I love that post you did too the other day about why you shouldn't give a crap about how people if they like you or not. Like, yeah, that's right. So
it's the mirror.
It's none of our business, right? It's like, hey, whatever we trigger in everybody else, and as long as I feel like I'm being socially responsible, I'm talking about being, taking ownership of my own shit. But exactly. It's like, well, really, it's none of our business how the people are like, because if our vibrational frequency is shaking the house, like if our vibrational frequency is like an earthquake, you know, wanting to kind of shake things up because, you know, that it's not working anymore or whatever, well, we've got to let that happen. And sometimes it does kick up the dust a bit, and it does actually create chaos, for other people, because they, you know, they're all triggered or what have you. So a lot of people's reactions to what we're doing, especially on that unity consciousness level that we're talking about here, guys, masculine, feminine, yin and yang, coming together, really connecting. Bloody hell, a lot of it's just none of our business. And just as if we don't focus on that and we keep going with what we're doing, oh my God, the energy we have that we're not expending on worrying about,
right. Did I upset somebody? Did I trigger somebody? Are they now projecting onto me? It's like, we can't. And yeah, I'm pretty empathic. So I feel everybody. So sometimes I have to really like take a minute to just, okay, I'm gonna work some mantras over here to myself, and I'm gonna center myself, because I can't fix everybody's problems, you know? That's me, I'm a fixer, so.
And that's been another really powerful lesson for us as well, is, you know, allowing one another to have a bad day and not taking it personally.
Absolutely.
Because that's like, even on a greater scale, it's just, we gotta stop taking everything personally.
Yeah, I love that. And that is, and it is, sometimes with this journey that we're on, that we're all undertaking, it does require quite a lot of patience at times, doesn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like you know, you have your learning over here and you're hugging your chaos over here. And so then you've hugged your chaos, and then it's triggering that person to hug their chaos. You get me?
Totally.
But in that process, that other person could totally be projecting onto you, and it's like you have to like allow them that space and not allow it to then bring up your own stuff. So we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with each other. It's so true.
You know, I honestly feel like is that in relationship, in what I call enlightened relationships or light-filled relationships, I feel like that's key. Like the unconditional love for each other's process is key, because sometimes we're in that inner child struggle, woundedness, and we're not ready to step into the hug, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, you know, we've got to actually love the part that doesn't want to step into the hug yet too. Yeah. And know that they're not ready for a reason, and there's that requires us to do more work on our patience. And so we're not projecting what we think someone have to do now because we got it, and so they have to get it like right now too. And I think that for me, there's always something we can do, because people say to me, oh my God, you know, when you're looking at all the chaos out there, oh my God, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Well, guess what? We can absolutely love them unconditionally from wherever they're at, and we can actually call in faith and sit in that faith in patience and allow what's meant to unfold. And I think that's massive. Like if we can do that for each other, for ourselves as well, then we can do that for the planet.
That's so true.
Absolutely.
And it requires like a little bit of humility for us to do that, because it's really just our ego that wants to let me come over there and help you fix it, and I don't want to let you, I can't watch it, you know, work out the way it's meant to work out. And when we can just kind of stay in our own space and but love them from afar, like you're saying, and just, you know, give the unconditional love and just be a supporter and a witness, it takes, you know, a little bit of humility.
Yeah.
It
does. It does, doesn't it? But you know what? I actually got to say, I'm digging humility more and more, because the more humble you are, the less you carry it. Like you just, you know, the more you're in surrender. People say, people say to me, like, how the hell do you do what you do? It's like a lot of freaking surrendering. Let me tell you that right now. Because I couldn't carry it all. Hell, if I was carrying it all, I'd be the size of an ant. I'd be crushed under a big boulder. Like, it's not my job.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. Sometimes when I have a reaction to something in the relationship, and Lindsay will call me out, and I'll get really upset. But then I recognize if I let go of the ego, I let go of the personality, I just surrender to the process, I admit what has happened. I take ownership. Once I've owned something, I have the ability to let it go. And when I've done that, it feels like I've just hopped out of a shower. I feel so clean. You know, it's just light and easy.
I know. How awesome does it feel?
Yeah.
I just can't stress that enough. Like, it does. And you know what? It's so awesome that you guys are modeling this, you know, because I think there are a lot of people that I think a lot of men, I'm not saying men should be with women and women should be men. I just think there's a lot of people in general, right, that are stepping up to the plate now, that have this conscious awareness. And it's wonderful to see that there are men doing that, because it's been women for a long time, hasn't it? Like that sort of that bracket of women in that sort of 40s age group, they're ready to be enlightened because they've walked their path, and they've been sort of like, I think the market, you know, the target market, if you like, if you think in marketing terms, for this kind of spiritual journey. But I feel like now we're hitting a point where it's so wonderful. There's so many men coming to the party because, oh my God, we need you. We need you. We need all.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because it has to remain, you know, we were just talking about this the other day with just masculine and feminine. Even within ourselves, like our own, you know, I have a little bit of masculine energy. Like I'm a take charge, go getter kind of girl. And learning to sort of soften up a little bit and embrace more of my feminine has allowed us to grow even closer, because him, you know, being masculine and embracing, you know, the balance aspect of being sort of a divine masculine, it just blossoms into this whole nother level of, you know, balance and understanding and sort of being able to show that to the world. Because we often go through extremes, and, you know, we've been very dominated by sort of the masculine sort of energy, not the divine masculine, but a very unbalanced version of masculine energy, which has sort of kept feminine energy down, and now it's sort of shifting. And I feel like a really big thing for us, and like you said, with more men coming to the party, we get to remember that we get to honor them too, and it doesn't have to, we can find that balance.
Yeah. And Chris, how would you just, like, because I'm curious, how would you define the divine masculine, and it doesn't have to be in general either. Like, I'm more than happy to hear like how you personally feel that expression of energy coming through you, because it doesn't have to be generalizations, especially in these kind of conversations. And or it can be just totally up to you as to what you want to share, the level you want to share.
Yeah, for sure. For my path personally, I always tried to cultivate strength, being that my belief was the masculine had to be strong. And that wasn't necessarily something that came from my father. It was just something that I felt inside myself. So I worked at building strength in every respect I could. When I was a kid, I used to hold my hands under the hot tap as long as I could, just to, you know, try and overcome the pain that I was feeling, because I believed that made me stronger. I didn't realize at the time that there was some measure of dysfunction in that. You know, it was just a test of my manliness against the element that I was dealing with. Sports, I got into ultra running, and I then went into the military. But because I went way too far in that respect, I then pulled back, and I guess I embraced a very feminine aspect of myself. And I honestly feel that it was meeting Lindsay that's enabled me to come to a point of balance between that, you know, that ultra masculine and the softer feminine parts. So for me, embracing a divine masculine is all about gentle but firm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like that disciplined love. So like that real, yeah, I'm understanding what you're saying, because it sort of protects us from allowing our chaos to get out of control. Basically, it's the part of ourselves that's bringing the hug, and the feminine's probably the part of ourselves that's bringing the love in that hug or something like that.
I think it's about being able to self-love is the biggest thing for a man to become divinely masculine. Is about accepting self-love. It's about opening your own heart and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and understanding that that's where your truest strength comes from.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Like, doesn't it? Like, shit, how much courage does it take to tell the truth?
Right.
Bloody.
Be honest about your feelings, even.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that it's about self-love because, you know, for me, I don't know, a lot of people might not see it like that, but my feeling is that if you don't bring love to the table, you can't really unlock or activate anything in our psyche. I mean, it's really judged then, like there's a part of our psyche that's always judged and rejected or measured or put a ceiling on or something, like some kind of, you know, boundedness about it, or something we project some level of heaviness to it. Whereas when we're bringing love to it and all our parts and things like that, yeah, it's really active. Like that's very yang, you know, like you could say, oh, love is feminine, but the actual action of loving it's a verb and it's very yang. And so the energy is actually coming through us.
Sure is, right? It's so true.
Yeah. Like, I mean, according to the Hermetics, and I've studied Hermetic alchemy for a very long time now, according to the Hermetics, the principle of gender, the divine masculine or feminine, sit at a very high vibration, and it's the transmutation that they speak about is coming from a point of, I mean, because love and hate, according to the Hermetics, are exactly the same thing. They're separated only by the vibration they exhibit. They're not two separate forces. And the divine masculine and the divine feminine, they're both sitting at the highest vibration, which is love. So, I mean, you can experience your darkness and your hate within yourself and you still have the capacity to love completely. But it's not until you've expressed that you've transmutated and, you know, you're embracing those divine elements of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I like that you study. I love hearing about that kind of detailed stuff because it's fascinating, and I'm so glad that someone else is doing it because, you know, I just don't have time to do all that at the moment anyway. Maybe I will one day, but I just find it invaluable to hear that kind of information come through to me.
And it's just so applicable to the path.
Totally is. Do you find that you bring out the best in each other when you're looking for the best in each other? Because I'm a big believer that because my relationship with Tony, we tend to want now more in our relationship. Now we've been together for 10 years now, and he was my third husband. Just to let you know, fill you in on a little story. I had a few trial runs that were really very awesome teachers to learn my value and to embrace my light, to embrace my bubbles, my puppy dog energy. And now we're at a place now like where it's very little of the time that we would be looking at not that we don't kind of seek for the improvement side of things, because we're always kind of aware of that if there's something that grates upon us and we know that it's maybe it's at a little bit of a point with that person where they're not conscious of it or that it's a moderate or what have you, and we can say, hey, well, when that happens, this is how I feel, and they go, oh, usually, I don't know, he's got this weird magic thing that he goes, oh, so no worries, I'll just change that, you know, it's like, I don't know, he's got this weird thing, I've never met anyone like that, but anyway, it's kind of bizarre. I think it's very must be dolphin-like, I don't know what it is, but anyway, but yeah, but more often than not nowadays, we just see the best in each other, like it's just a natural go-to is probably the best way of saying it. And how do you guys feel? Do you kind of have that as your natural go-to?
Yeah, these days, you know, in the beginning of our relationship, it was definitely a period of immense growth for both of us because both of us were very sort of independent before that. And for me, I was very much like the one throughout my life, well, I don't need to be married. I don't even want to be married. Like, I'm good on my own because I don't want to have to be accountable to anyone. So coming together in the beginning, there was a lot of learning. And we had, you know, some fireworks and some moments where it wasn't the best. But I really feel like now we've grown and we've transitioned into that because really, like, it's because of him that I've been able to embrace my softer, nurturing, you know, creative, feminine side, you know, and opened up to, and allowed myself to be part of a team and realize I don't have to do anything on my own. And then in turn, you know, I'm being able to now show that to the world.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful.
I'm really excited for you guys that you found your groove there. And
Yeah.
it certainly doesn't make it so much easier when you're having a rough day that you've got a compassionate person around you that's going, it's cool. You know, like I have my cave days, you know.
Me too.
You know,
oh my God.
no, I'm just not dealing with anything that requires
I'm gonna hide in here.
I'm just going to watch Game of Thrones on Netflix or whatever it is, and just to have a human day, I think is really important. And I mean, they're fun days too. They're not like awful days. Like they're really great. So I think it's nice to just to be wherever we are and to have that constant that person's not going, well, you know, you're over there but you should be over there, or you're over there and you should be over there, or you know, you're having a down day but you should be having up, you know, like whatever. And I think that makes life easy, doesn't it? And we just get on with what we need to do, right? We just get on with what we need to do. If our partner needs something else, that's cool too. And I think that's supportive. Like sometimes my hubby, he likes to surf. Oh. So he'll go off and he surf and I'll do something else and it's nice, especially if I don't feel like going out and exercising today. It's cool. He's going off surfing. Yay. Right. You know?
Because it's good to be able to have that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're very simple examples, but like they're everyday life examples.
Sure.
You know, if you're not in that relationship that is supportive of being where you are, you can say, well, why don't you want to hang out with me? Why are you going surfing? What's wrong with me? You know, suki. Maybe.
Yeah, it's something that I've coached several guys in now is, you know, that are coming to that point in their relationship where they're like, my partner she's just not attracted to me anymore. What's happening? And the simple answer is, what aren't you doing that you did that she fell in love with? You know, who did she fall in love with and who have you become now? And that's, if you rock climbed, if you surfed, if you rode motocross, whatever.
Don't forget those things.
Don't leave those things at the start of the relationship, because that's part of who you are. And, you know, you're going to become a watered down version of yourself.
Right.
And the things, I mean, not that we're attracted to these aesthetic things in our partner, but it creates who we are. And, you know, we're leaving parts of ourselves behind. So that shows that seeps through.
So it certainly does, doesn't it? It's like, you know, we bring what we bring to the table, and often that's hopefully authentic. And we want to keep those things with us and then build on those things as we're together. But if we start to deny ourselves and not be in that self-love that you talked about before, Chris, if we start to abandon ourselves, then it's really easy to project that onto our partner and go, well, you're abandoning me. But the reality is...
That's so dead on.
Yeah, exactly. And then we cling to them to fill those deficits of love.
The more we feel abandoned, the more we're like,
Yeah.
And then we got the blaming going on. We're like,
right. And then it's like, no wonder so many relationships fail. You know, I see it in so many, you know, people in my life where I just, because I'm an observer, you know, I just always see and I watch, and it's like, if you could just get people to sit down and talk to one another authentically and speak their truth, and, you know, stop trying to present like something that they're not, and just actually connect with each other and listen, it just changes the score. You know,
it does.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing about listening. I was just thinking it as you were talking, when we actually hear what our partner is actually saying behind the actual words, the energy. When you start to listen to the energy, it starts to be a whole different ball game.
A whole
relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
and so
I was going to say, like, part of listening is, like you're saying, listening beyond the words, because not only do we see through our filters, but we hear through our filters.
Yeah.
And our filters are defined by, you know, past our life, if we haven't, you know, cleared it up and healed it, that's still filtering. And it's like someone says something to you and we hear something totally different. And then it's, oh, what do you know, and blah, and then it all like, and so, right. So part of listening is really just pausing to be in the moment with the person, especially your partner. That's probably where we see it more than anywhere else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the divine feminine really is working its energy here, because I feel like when we're taking the filters off, we're actually really plugging into the receptivity that's really required to hear the truth of what's really happening on a deeper level. And that's the divine feminine. And I think it can actually really receive quite, what I'm seeing like layers of truth, and it can kind of go, well, that's one level of truth that I'm hearing, but then I'm hearing all these other layers of truth there, and it can actually start to listen to more than one thing at a time going on for that person. And I think that's when we actually really, well, pardon the pun, but I think really tune in. You know, we're really tuning into our partner.
Right. That's so true. On like such a deeper level too. Yeah.
It is. It's interesting what comes through when we're having these conversations. So that just dropped in. It was really nice.
Right. No, that's great. I'm all about like some throat chakra too. Like I do a lot of chakra work and healing with other people. And one of my biggest problems was throat chakra, just blocked. Couldn't communicate, couldn't hear, couldn't listen. And it's about, you know, talking and listening.
Yeah.
And actually being present to hear and not, you know, being in your head when someone else is talking.
Absolutely. And you know what, the thing that's dropping in about that is it's like, that's the action of talking or expression is extraordinarily masculine in terms of the yang energy. It's an outward flow. And so when you've got the two working in harmony, it's like you do have that real balanced masculine and feminine energy going on.
Yeah.
So true.
In everything.
I love that.
Yeah. Manifests in everything. It's again, it's hermetic, you know, the principle of gender. It manifests in everything.
It does.
And it's so funny because earlier on when we first started talking, and he would talk about alchemy and hermetic alchemy, and it sort of was just like foreign to me. I don't even know, you know, and the further along the path we walk and we learn and we see, it's like, it's so simple and it just lines up all the time. And then you start seeing all the connections between hermetic alchemy and Buddhism and Hinduism and yoga and all these ancient, you know, whatever they are. And you're like, oh my God. And it's like, it seems so simple. You're like, how did I not figure this out, you know, 20, 30 years ago? But
all roads lead to Rome.
Right.
Oh yeah, baby. I'm a big one on that. I am such a big one on that. All roads lead to enlightenment, because Rome, I think, is enlightenment in my book, and I feel like every path is the correct path, every single one. And you know, people have to walk that path. And you know what? In this lifetime, they might get to a certain point in the path, and hey, no judgment. It's just where they are on the path. It doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. They're still on the journey. So, yeah.
We actually had this conversation this morning. We were driving in the car. We literally had that conversation about, you know, you are where you are on the path, and it is what it is. And
yeah,
absolutely. Where are you guys heading with what you're doing? What are your little projects and things coming up, or do you have anything going on that's exciting this year you want to share about?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, we've got a couple of programs that we have developed that we're working with. The first one that we've delivered a few times now is the Heart Path, which is Life Warriors' keystone program. The understanding that we all have a path that makes sense to our own heart, and that very well-meaning people along our lives, starting with our parents, will, you know, inadvertently divert us from that heart path. And so the example that we like to give when delivering the program is that if a child is really passionate about music and expresses that desire, that, you know, wanting to play in a band or wanting to make music in life, parents, being very well-meaning, might say something along the lines of, well, that's fantastic, but where's the money going to come from? Get a sensible job. That puts a wall in front of that path, and then there's a detour. And we may never touch music again, you know, may never look at that again, which, you know, just slowly starts silencing our heart.
And it starts also forming the energetic blocks.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's good. And so we take people back to those blocks and help them remove the blocks and then come back onto that heart path. And there's a program that we've developed that does that. The other thing that I'm working currently with people regarding is called The Art of Being Human. And that's pretty well what it sounds like. It's a very, very simple program.
Coaching program.
That is really difficult to follow. And it's all about our relationships to the most fundamental aspects of life. So it's about our relationship to our breath. It's about our relationship to our food. It's about our relationship to ourselves, to other people, and to the world around us. And moving through, you know, these different steps, transitioning through, we start to create unbreakable bonds between ourselves and these things that we have these relationships with, that we have to have relationships with to be human, but we've forgotten how to have relationships with. So that's what we're working with, The Art of Being Human.
Yeah, it's like all the parts that we just sort of mindlessly do. You know, nobody thinks about breathing. Nobody thinks about eating. Nobody, like, these little things. And it's like when you bring awareness, all of a sudden you find yourself so anchored in the moment.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of healing to be found in that too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that you guys are so like pro-human. Like I'm very pro-human. Like that's how I describe myself. I even go on my Facebook profile, but I thought Enlightenment Activist for All summed it up, you know, as my forever service. I might have summed it up enough. But, you know, there's a part of me that just goes, guys, guess what? You've chosen this human body. It's okay. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's okay to be here. It's okay to be here. Come on, let's do this thing. And I'm so
none of it is that serious. Like, it's just not. Like, let's just stop and stop. Like, you know. And we fully understand now how, because a big part of what I teach when I work with people is, you know, when we're judging others, it's because we're such harsh judges of ourselves. And if we can just learn to accept ourselves, all that other stuff, it just stops. It doesn't exist anymore. So, and it's just a simple path to get there, you know, breath work and meditation and authenticity and
all that darkness that we spoke about, that we talk about, hug your chaos, you know, that chaos, we signed up for all of that.
It all got us here. It got us to where we are at this moment.
Our enlightenment, it's there. That's where we came from. That's where we're going back to. Why not just enjoy what we're doing here? Enjoy the pain that comes when you stub your toe.
The messiness.
Enjoy the cold water when you jump in the freezing ocean in the middle of winter. That's
the fights.
That's why we're here.
The messy, sloppy parts, you know, when you freak out and act like a 12-year-old child, you know, to be able to then come back from that and be like, okay, you know, I just did that. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna one up you on that one, Lindsay. You know what I say? It's so classic. Like, you know, I'm gonna one up you on my spirituality, Lindsay.
Ultra spiritual.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I say my language around that is, I say a part of me just did that. I apologize.
Nice.
I love that.
I am owning it, but it's not all of it. It's not, you know, I've got second chances going on here, guys. Just listen.
No, that's great. I love that.
It's such a freeing feeling to be able to bring consciousness into our darker parts. So if we have a really big fight and I'm lying on the couch crying my eyes out, which I do frequently, and I'm not afraid to admit that. That's part of my humanness. It's part of my path. But to be able to have somewhere in there to be watching that and having a little smile at that experience.
Sure.
You know, to have the consciousness and in that moment, look at the hardship that Chris is dealing with and have a little chuckle and say, it's all right, you'll get through it.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Oh, it's amazing work you guys are doing. And so you've got these, where are you based? So where can people find you and things too? Just, you're in California, is it?
Right now we live in Long Beach, California, which is just outside of Los Angeles. And hopefully we're trying to get out of here with it, like by the year.
Okay.
But a lot of our work we do online. we're really into the blog right now and trying to, you know, grow that and expand that, because it's just such a, you know, a free way for people to sort of get an introduction to the path and what that is possible for them, because we've had such amazing responses to the blog from people and from like our live streams on Facebook, where they're just like, wow, you know, I was struggling so hard, and then I listened, you know, to this live stream or that video, or I read this blog, and it just, I never thought of it like that. And, you know, wow, hearing you just be so vulnerable, like really inspired me. You know, I did one a few weeks ago where it was all about, you know, what happened when I stopped wearing makeup. And I wrote an article about sort of the programming, you know, behind makeup. And literally like the next day, 8 women messaging me to say, you know what, I didn't wear makeup to work today. And oh my God, I can't believe how empowered I feel.
Yeah.
And like that is what just, it right here, it hits like home, and it just warms my heart to know that people are, you know, just by doing nothing but sharing our experience and being who we are.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a part of me that doesn't like wearing makeup too.
Right.
And there's a part of me that loves wearing makeup, but there's a part of me that doesn't. And
I just don't want to have to.
Yeah, because you know what? Because I share with you, the part of me that likes to wear makeup, likes to actually look like I've got eyelashes, and you know, and
right.
I'm blonde, so it's like I don't look like I got no eyelashes going on.
I know.
You know, and there's a part of me that loves not wearing makeup so much. So I tend to on the weekends. You know, I'm just like, yeah, whatevs. And, you know, unless I'm going out or something at night, and, you know, I just love to have, I don't feel the obligation, I guess, to have to have.
Right.
It's nice. It's very liberating. And I think that, yeah, I think the more we get in touch with these aspects of ourselves, it becomes less about right and wrong and more about what feels good for that particular part of our aspect of us. And so good or what have you, and then just to kind of be more in touch with that, because then it's like we're not projecting those labels out onto everybody else. It's just like,
and we're not trained to doing something that we feel like we have to do. So
and trying to be ultra spiritual.
I love that.
It's just what we want to experience in the moment.
Yeah.
You know? That's all.
Yeah. So like there might be a part of you that likes your beard, and then there might be a part of you that doesn't. But I don't know how you'd manage that.
There are definitely moments where I can't stand it, and you know, I get.
Oh my God! Really?
As I'm eating, I get these bits of hair in my mouth, and I'm just like.
It's such a great beard, though.
When you're swallowing your moustache as you're eating, you know that you've got a massive beard happening, but it's there. I enjoy having it. I'm not a slave to it. I can go and shave it off if you know I felt like I wanted to do that.
It's a pretty epic beard.
It's amazing. Like, is it different colors on purpose? Like, did you do that?
No, it grew that way.
No, I'm getting old. That's great.
I'm thinking it might be what's that thing that
an ombre effect on his beard.
Yeah, no.
Ombre, bring it in, bring the styling in, sweetheart. Like, yeah, ombre.
I'm meant to have the dark everywhere. It just doesn't happen here anymore.
The light is coming out of you as we speak. It's really great, guys. You know, my hubby and I, we're heading up to, well, I don't know, whatever direction. I think we are down under, yeah. So we're heading up to Venice Beach in June. Oh, actually,
that's
July.
So close to us.
You'll have to drop in and.
Yes, we'll have to catch up.
Yeah.
I know how cool.
Like, what is the chance? It's perfect.
I know. We're actually doing a little trip, like from Colorado. Well, we're going to New York and then Toronto, and then we're flying into Denver, and we're driving from Colorado down to the Grand Canyon and Sedona, and then up to Las Vegas, and got to do Las Vegas, and then on to Venice Beach for like 5 days, and we'll be there for the 4th of July. So it's going to be a big day, I suppose, for America. Like, interesting. It'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
No, that's good. We'll have to meet up.
Yeah.
So great.
So you guys, I really appreciate you joining me, and just let people know where they can actually find you so far as all your little social media places, and maybe even for you, Lindsay, like your last name's Caricat in some, is it? Sorry, you tell everybody.
So, well, we have our website, which is www.thelifewarrior.net. We also have our blog website, which is www.hugyourchaos.com. That's right, Hug Your Chaos. And then on Facebook, we have
Life Warrior, The Art of Being Human, which is Facebook.com/Life Warrior Arts.
And then a Facebook for Hug Your Chaos, as well as both of our individual Facebooks, where he's Christopher Jones and I'm still Lindsay Caricardi, because I haven't legally changed the name yet to the marriage. But yeah, you find one of us, you could find us.
Yeah.
I also write for Elephant Journal, so you can find me at elephantjournal.com/author/Lindsay-Caricardi. Yeah, hopefully you'll find us on Amazon within the next 6 months for our books too.
We're both on the verge of publishing books.
Yeah.
Oh, are you allowed to give us a little wiki leak?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So mine is entitled The Last Alchemist, and it's actually a novelized form of imparting the wisdom of the 7 universal principles of Hermetic alchemy. So it's the story of a guy who lives in Los Angeles, and when he heads up to Mount Shasta, he enters into a parallel universe where guides take him through the universal principles, and then through the process of magnum opus, the masterwork, and he becomes a master alchemist so that he can bring that wisdom back to the earth and give it to the people of the planet.
Oh my God, this sounds mind-blowing. I just felt it.
Yeah,
seriously,
been channeled by his guides.
It was so much fun writing it. It was almost at the point where, you know, when you're reading a good book and you're like, oh, I've got to go to work, and you put the book down and you go to work, and then throughout the day you're thinking about the book, you want to get back to the character, you're just engrossed. That's what it was like writing it for me. It was at any given point, if I wasn't writing it, I was thinking about when can I get back to my guy? When can I get back to my character? I need to get back to his journey, because I was on the journey with him, and it was completely channeled work.
And then I literally said to him last night, I was like, we were driving home, and I was like, I just found myself thinking about your main character and what happens next. I said, and that's the sign of a good book, because I haven't gotten all the way through it yet. And I said, when I'm thinking about a book I'm reading, when I'm, 10 miles away from home, I said, that's a good book.
I'm really excited for you guys. That's like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't know. For me, it feels like really awesome energy that not only is obviously going to be put out into the world, but wow, that it's really been transforming and weaving through you guys. Like that whole process of it coming into creation has been obviously an amazing process for you guys. See, that's the beautiful benefit of allowing our partners to shine, is that the energy comes in, doesn't it? It's like, and then we're like receiving, and then that feeds us, and then we're even more expansive than we were before.
Everybody,
it's
beautiful.
And Lindsay's got a book coming out as
well. I was going to say, what's yours, Lindsay?
So my book is it's one part a non-fictional narrative of my sort of life journey, intermeshed with a lot of it's a manual for living and clearing and healing your chakras, and how the different imbalances in your chakras manifest in behaviors, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual behaviors, with the illustrations of my own personal examples to kind of give people context. And then it's sort of like a guide for living a balanced and integrated life at the end.
Well, can I just say something? This is kind of freaky, right? But it's weird. I wrote a book, back in 2015, and it's called the Everyday Lightworker Bible.
Oh.
And it's based on like how we integrate like 12 high vibrational frequencies such as love, peace, joy, and things like that I was gifted from Archangel Michael in 2005. Like these are the principles that we all need really to in balance to be able to really evolve, like really grow up and evolve. An interesting one's discipline, by the way. Interesting that one of the discipline. So I love the divine masculine aspect that Archangel Michael implanted in there. But cross-sectioning them with all the chakras individually and providing examples. I know.
I love it. I'm going to have to read that.
It's so freaky that you're doing that, because it's like, oh my God, that we're being called to do this so that people actually can really see what's traveling for them, like really get it, like concrete examples of how when imbalances are not kind of functioning, like what's going on, what are the symptoms sprouting out of that, and so then how can we do that? So yeah, isn't that crazy, Lindsay? We've obviously got, see?
I know, because people always look at me kind of like, and I'm like, well, everything always starts on an energetic plane. Yeah. And when I came to realize that, literally every single one of my problems in life, my addiction, I had cancer when I was 25, all of these things, my physical health issues when I was a child, every single one aligns to where I had energetic blockages in my chakras, like perfectly. And it was mind blowing when I finally discovered that and started doing the work to get in there and, you know, heal and align them and get the stuff flowing and moving. And just for other people to have that information is just, you know.
So proud of her.
So priceless. So priceless, isn't it, though, Lindsay? Like, it's so priceless. I love that you're bringing it back to yourself. In my books, I don't think I talk that much about myself. I had, I did the cross-section of each chakra with each of the 12 principles, and then I had a little activity for each of them. But then I provided like a case study, and although a lot of them did relate to not my life personally, but to my experiences in life, and so it was personal on some level, but on another level, I feel like it would be really amazing to see that in action too in your book, is that you've really allowed yourself to go, actually, this is how it represented for me. I love that aspect of it.
I feel like that it helps people relate. I think that's one of my gifts, is I take these higher level sort of topics and make them really just relatable to people. And I think it's because I bring it back to myself and just openly share the crazy examples.
I love that. Well, it's been an absolute freaking amazing joy to connect with you guys. Awesome. Love you. And I'm so glad that Spirit dropped you in our path to be able to have this beautiful sacred time and share this amazing information with everybody. So thank you so much
for having us.
All right,